Hello everybody. Today we're going to be watching a few videos of gamblers. A few of the videos are just to give you an idea of what a run looks like, and then a few others are to highlight a few rules. We will not be highlighting every possible rule that is going to be associated with gamblers in this video, but we'll try and cover a few of the more common ones. So we'll just watch these videos together. A couple of them we want to highlight a few things as it's happening, and others we'll kind of rewind and show you some things you need to know. So starting off, you can start either direction on the first obstacle of the course. This course, it kind of works out in everyone's favor that they have the option of basically starting it in reverse. They still have some course options doing that. Most courses are probably not going to be like that. Most of them, it's probably going to be pretty obvious you want to start in one direction. So we'll just start watching this. This video in particular is going to start off pretty quick with something we want to let people know about. Barrels in gamblers are a pretty high value obstacle. They are worth 4 points. But because of that, you have to perform them to a certain degree. So what we would call a pass by, which is what this dog is doing here, which is where the dog is only running along one side of the barrel, you will not get points for that performance. In order to get points for the barrel, the dogs need to do at least two sides, which it doesn't have to be a direct 90-degree turn, but the big thing is just the pass-bys do not get points. So right off the bat right here, they would get that one for the jump, but they would not get anything for that barrel performance. A-frames are worth 5 points. Hoops and jumps are worth 1 point. And then a barrel, when performed correctly, is worth 4 points. Now, another thing we want to point out real quick, we just got one barrel performance in right there. So we're just going to keep going here. This is going to be our second barrel performance. And this will be our third barrel performance. So each obstacle has a max number of performances. You cannot earn points past that max number. So for barrels, it is 3 performances. So now that we've gotten those 3, we're going to do one more barrel over here, but we will not be gaining any points for that. That would just be, the judge is still going to call a 4, but the scribe sheets do not have a place for that 4th performance. There are basically only a certain number of those numbers on the scribe sheet. And once the scribe runs out of places to circle, they just ignore the judge. So the judge will call that 4th barrel performance because the judges do not keep track of how many times each obstacle has been performed. But the scribe is not going to have a place to put it and therefore will not put it down anywhere. So you will not get the points for that. For future reference, for the rest of the videos, the gamble on this course is Hoop Hoop Dog Walk. So that is our first video. And we'll just move along to our second here. And we'll just watch the run and then we'll point some stuff out. So we're nearing the end of the run here. The dog on this course would have gotten the gamble, and they definitely got more than enough points in the opening. For every full second that you are under time, you get 2 points added to your score. Standard course time changes depending on jump height. For 8 inches, the standard course time is 46 seconds. There is a max of 10 points that can be earned via time. So this dog is obviously well below that 46-second standard course time, so they would have maxed out their time bonus. They would have gotten that full 10 points. So they obviously would have queued on this run without a doubt. Depending on how other dogs in their class ran, they may not have gotten first, because you could have had another dog who stayed out there a little bit longer, stayed out there until, let's say, 40 seconds, and use that 5 seconds to get a couple more obstacles in and a couple more points. So because of that, you could have a dog that is also getting the 10 points from their time bonus, but also got a few other obstacles in. The key here is just to know your dog, knowing how many obstacles you can get in the time that is allowed, and also knowing when you're better off to just get out of the ring. All right, so this dog here is going to have a good example of another rule that we're going to want to talk about. So we're starting the run off nicely. And right here is where that rule is going to come into play. So what we do not allow is flips onto contacts or into tunnels off of contacts. So we have the dog going into the tunnel, which they will get their 3 points for. But when they come out and do the A-frame, since that is not allowed, they will not get the points for that A-frame performance. So they're going to get a 0 for the A-frame, and it's basically just a little bit of wasted time. The reasoning for this is we always want to see at the very least our minimum distance between performances, which is that 18 feet. So we don't want to see people doing flips onto or out of contacts. And that was another nice run. So just besides that one A-frame that wasn't going to get points, the rest of that run was very nicely done. Now, another thing to keep in mind here, we're going to go back a little bit. The gamble starts when the dog does the first 2 obstacles in sequence. So for this gamble, it is the blue hoop, the red hoop, and then the dog walk. So it can start even if the handler is not intentionally trying to start it. But it also means you can take that first obstacle and then go somewhere else as long as you do not do the second obstacle in sequence. If your dog decides to do that second obstacle, you are now trying the gamble. We'll have a really good example of this a little bit later as well. Another nice run, well under time. They would have gotten the time bonus as well. Also, something to keep in mind with that time bonus, it also works as a deduction. So if you are over time, for every full second over your standard course time, you get 2 points taken off of your score. And there is also no maximum for that. So you can have a lot of points taken off of your score. Now, just as a tip and a trick, so here's something to keep in mind with the gambler's class. Right here, our handler basically has a choice to make. At this point, they will have gotten the gamble, assuming that they get this contact. I'm not really watching it too closely as a judge, but I'm fairly certain that they do get this contact. So assuming that our handler has gotten the gamble, they've gotten more than enough points in the opening, they could just go straight right now, leave the course. They would get their time bonus, full 10 points, because they're well under time for their jump height. And they would definitely get a cue. Now, depending on why they're trialing, if they want to also get a high placement, this is where strategy comes in. If all you care about is the cue, you can just kind of get in and get out. If you want to place fairly high, though, you want to get the absolute max score that you can. And the highest score you're going to be able to get is you want to max out your time bonus. So you want to be a full 5 seconds under time and probably give yourself a little bit of cushion there. and you want to get as many obstacles in as possible, preferably high value obstacles. So this handler is going to take the choice of, instead of leaving, she's going to come over here, and we're just going to get a few more pieces of equipment in. So we're going to get that hoop, a jump, weave pole, and a barrel, one more tunnel, and then we're going to leave. So she's at 12 inches, so her standard course time, off the top of my head, I believe is 42 seconds. She ran in 34:68, so she would also get full time bonus, and she picked up a lot more points by staying in the ring just a little bit longer and picking up those obstacles. You just got to be careful with that, because you could start negating those points really quickly if you go over time. So it's all about the strategy. And here is the beautiful part of gamblers. When things go wrong, you are not getting faults, you are just getting extra points. So right there, where things kind of went haywire with the handler, they weren't really racking up any faults, they were just getting a few extra points along the way, which makes it kind of nice. And then what we want to showcase on that video, which we'll actually go back for, you can actually tell on this course that the dog made the decision for the handler about whether the run is over. The finish obstacle, whether it be a jump, a hoop, or any other piece of equipment, although it will most likely be a jump or a hoop, is always live. So when your dog goes through and they stop the timers, there is no bringing them back. There is no continuing the course. The finish obstacle ends the run. So you can tell on this particular run that the handler was trying to bring their dog back around, but it didn't quite work, and the dog just kept going. So the dog chose to end the run at that point. And here you see a good example of the dog starting the gamble, even though the handler was not really aiming for that. Our handler was definitely trying to turn the dog left. The dog decided to take that second hoop. That is 2 obstacles in sequence, which means the gamble was now being attempted. This would also be a fail on the gamble, because at this point, they've taken number 1 and number 2. The next correct obstacle in sequence is number 3, which is the dog walk. So to successfully complete this gamble, the dog would need to go to the dog walk next. But instead, in order to get them back over there, they had to take that red hoop. So that would negate that gamble. The gambles are also a one and done, so you do not get a second chance at them. So now what you can also see on this run, since things went a little bit haywire and did not quite go to plan, this is a 12-inch dog, which means their standard course time is going to be, I believe, 42 seconds. Don't quote me on that, but off the top of my head. And they ran in 60 seconds, so they are well over standard course time. So just off the top of my head, again, we're at least 20 seconds over time. Roughly, that means they're going to lose 40 points by being over time by that much. So you really do not want to be over time. That really is a deal breaker in this class, especially if you're over time by a large amount. Nothing to really talk about on that run, but it's always good to watch nice runs. And we're actually going to skip. Oh no, this is our last run. Perfect. And again, there's not going to be anything to talk about on this run either. This is just a really nice example of what can happen if you understand your dog very well. You understand their speed, you know what kind of a path they need for a course you need to design for them. You understand how many obstacles you can get in the time that you are allowed, what skills your dog has. When all that comes together, you can have a really nice run like this, which was beautiful, in 26 seconds. So for a 20-inch dog, she would get her full-time bonus, which is pretty substantial for the 20-inch dogs. That's pretty impressive. She also got a lot of really high-value obstacles in. She got the gamble. So this would be a really nice run. This would be a really high-scoring run. So that's the end of our videos for today. I'm sure there's going to be more as we progress through the class over the next couple months. There's definitely a few rules we did not cover in these videos just because we didn't have any good examples in the video that really illustrated the rules being used incorrectly. We are going to be asking people if they have any videos like that over the next couple months that they send them in. That way we can do some educational videos like this and show people what different things look like. The big one we did not get to do in this video, which we'll try and explain a little bit right here, is that there is a rule that you cannot travel more than 42 feet. Your dog cannot travel more than 42 feet without doing a piece of equipment. This is because back in the old days, it used to be very popular to finish your gamble if it was in the top edge of the course, and then just run straight across the course to the finish obstacle, which isn't really the point of agility. Kind of the goal of agility is for dog and handler to be a team doing equipment on the course. So we really don't like seeing people skipping large sections of the course, even though it made perfect sense by the rules we used to have back then. So we do have a rule that you cannot go more than 42 feet. 42 feet, besides being the answer to everything, is because that is basically the distance. If you were to set 3 jumps in a straight line, the dog could skip the middle jump and still be okay, because some dogs do that. So it just makes it a little bit easier to judge in that aspect. There are other circumstances where if you're designing a course during your walkthrough and you question whether something is going to be more than 42 feet, we highly recommend you ask your judge. This course brought up a couple of questions. For the dog exiting this purple tunnel right here, we'll try and see if we can pause it right at the time that we would like. If they were to leave this purple tunnel and then go to that blue hoop to start the gamble, whether that would be more or less than 42 feet. On this particular course, the way the obstacles were set out, it was less than 42. Not by a lot, but it was less. The judges will always walk that path in a completely straight line. It is not 42 feet via the dog's path. It is 42 feet from a completely straight line from the exit of one piece of equipment to the entrance of the next. That way there really is no arguments about dog path or anything else. So just keep that in mind if you design a course in your head and it looks like you're traveling a very long distance without doing any equipment. Even if it is through blank space on the course, you might want to check with your judge and make sure that it is not more than that 42 feet. That way you don't get eliminated, because it is a complete elimination for the round if that happens. Also, it will still be an elimination even if it is accidental. If you are running and not really paying close attention to your dog and they just start missing a bunch of equipment and you're not quite aware of it, that is still going to be an elimination, since we can really only judge what we see, not necessarily what the intent was. So that's one of the bigger rules that I do wish we had a better example video, but sadly we didn't really have any issues at this trial. So we appreciate everybody watching, and we look forward to seeing everybody running the class over the next couple months. Happy trialing.